Okay, this is the head off of the A3 Cummins, and I'm over here and have it on top of the bed of the mill to do a little bit of work on it. One of the things that I have to do is there's some exhaust manifold studs that are broken out on it. That's the first thing that I'm going to tackle is getting those studs back out of there. And then I'm going to try and get it set up so that I can try and then extract those broken part of the injectors out of it. But anyways, it's over here at the mill, and that's what I'm going to be doing on it. I just put it up here. I had been working on the rear axle that's going to be going under the haul truck, the new rear axle that I got for it. And let me take you over there. So I had been working on this rear axle. I had put that new brake caliper, or I'm sorry, new brake rotor on there, but let me, that will be part of another clip coming up in this video, which will be chapter 48 of the haul truck. So ironically, I've been working on this, and I got a phone call this morning from the salvage yard that I use for parts. And he told me that he had found, or he thought he had found, a parking brake assembly that would fit on the front of this rear differential. Now, I have been looking for a parking brake assembly forever. What it does is attach to the front of the differential, like I said. So he said, yeah, I think I've got it. We'd like to double check it, but are you going to be able to install it? And I says, yeah, I'll be able to install it. And he says, well, let me tell you something. It's going to change the pinion layout, and you're going to have to check the backlash or the runout on the pinion gear. So I says, well, I'm not sure how much it's going to change it. And he says, well, we have a guy here that does that all the time. Puts in new ring and pinion gears and checks the backlash. And he says, we could do it for you if you want us to. So he gave me a very reasonable price for doing it. Very reasonable, I thought. But anyways, so I'm going to think about it over the weekend, and but there's a very good possibility that the axle will be going out next week down to the salvage yard and be able to get that parking brake assembly. And I can't tell you how relieved I am to get that parking brake assembly, because I've been kind of going through this issue with trying to find one. There's basically three types of parking brakes that are found on trucks, larger trucks, and the parking brake has to be independent of the regular braking system. So usually on heavier trucks, older style heavier trucks, it's a driveline type of parking brake, and it can either be located on the rear differential, which hopefully this is going to happen on this one, or it can be located on the back of the transmission, or there's some of them that can be located in the carrier bearing. But so hopefully I can get one that's located on the rear differential. He's pretty sure that it's going to fit. So I will be calling him on Monday and probably taking it down there to do that. Now he says, well, I won't have the cables or the brake lever for it, but I have the original brake lever out of it, the truck, and it's kind of an old school type lever that I would kind of like to incorporate back into the truck, because again, it is old school, and I'll try and put a pick and pick up here someplace, maybe over there someplace, a pick and pick of that brake lever, So I'm really kind of excited. That came out of the blue. Just so ironically, I'd been working on this axle, and I get a call about the axle or about the parking brake that will fit this axle. So let's jump into other things that have been going on with the haul truck this week. Okay, over here to the truck. What I did is I came in this morning and drilled for those tank bracket extensions. Drilled the frame out. I had already drilled the extensions out, so then what I did is came over here, got the paint out, and painted the inside of this, painted the outside of this, so that I can put the extensions on and then have it completed. Well, it's not going to be completed, but it's going to have, let's call it that, undercoating stuff is going to be on it. I also painted the inside of it too. As long as I had the brush out, the reason why I wanted to do it is I wanted to try and get paint into those holes. So I wanted to paint the outside, get the paint in the holes on the outside, paint the inside, get the paint on into the holes on the inside also. So that's done. I didn't show it, but what I did do is welded the top. I can't pick it up for you. No, I can't pick it up for you. But I welded a piece up at the top like I was talking about earlier. Anyways, I'll bring you back. Okay, so it's the next day after I had painted this thing. All I'm going to do is start putting the bolts in, put the brackets on. One of the things that's kind of ironic is it's kind of hard to determine which holes are which after it's been painted. Let me get the tank brackets and the bolts and everything together, and I'll start putting them on. I'll put them on loosely before I tighten these up so that I've got everything in case something shifts a little bit while I tighten it up. Morning, Timmy's. Okay, so all the bolts are caught. I'm going to get some wrenches and I'll bring you back after we've tightened up. Okay, so what I did is I went through with a torque wrench and torqued all of the bolts that are holding the inner liner in to 100 foot-pounds. Next thing is the bracket and getting the tank up there. Now I've only got one strap. What I might do is take the strap off of the other side, one of the straps off the other side, because that tank and everything's got to come back off again so that I can paint and do everything else. Okay, back over here to the truck. I just got this passenger side tank on now. Again, I don't have the strap for this side. I actually called down the salvage yard this morning. What I've been having an issue is finding this identical strap. It's 2¼ inches wide, stainless steel, 26-inch tank. But the end connections apparently change from manufacturer to manufacturer. So what I did is called down to the salvage yard this morning and have them find out what model of a truck, whether it be a Peterbilt, a Kenworth, International, whatever a truck, they took these brackets and straps off of, so I can search that, because again, I'm having the issue of, you know, if you don't know your make and model of the truck, they don't know shit. But anyways, hopefully once I get the make of the truck, I can go to a dealer and have them research it for me to find it. But my searches on the internet have kind of been futile up to this point. But anyways, so the tank is mounted. Again, this is after I had put the bolts in, permanent bolts in, and torqued them out. Now, I didn't torque the brackets. I just tightened them up because, again, they have to come off for painting, etc. The tank's got to come off to be polished anyways. So what I'll do now is go over to the driver's side, remove that tank, and start the same process about cleaning and everything. But I'll bring you back. Okay, so the driver's side tank is off and the bolts are out. I just painted it with that PRO 15, and I'll have to wait probably a good 12 hours. I won't be able to do anything with it until the morning. But I'll come in the morning, put all the bolts back in, torque it like I did the other side, and remount the tank up here. Bring you back. Okay, so here are the tanks after they had been mounted. The driver's side after it had been painted, put the bolts in and torqued it like I did, mounted the tank back on there. Logically, it's all got to come back off again because, for two reasons. The frame has to be painted, the permanent color, whatever that's going to be. I haven't decided that yet, but it also has to come off because I've got to polish these tanks, both of these tanks. Now, I still haven't gotten that strap for the tank yet, but I will figure that out and get that. Get some new rubber underliners for them to protect the tank and hold it in place. Anyways, let's switch gears here, and no pun intended, and go to do some work on the rear axle. So this is the rotor off or the hubs assembly off the new axle that I got. This rotor was split, so I had to get a new rotor for it. I got new bearings and seals for it, put the bearing in, lubed it up with some gear oil first, lubed the seal up, put the rotor on. I didn't have a torque spec for the bolts, but what I did is use blue Loctite on them and torqued them down to 100 psi, so that should hold it. Here's what I did is I set that hub assembly up on the engine hoist so that I could put it on there. It's not that it's so heavy that you can't pick it up and put it on there, but I will be able to guide it a lot easier if I have it in position with the engine hoist to get that bearing and seal to seat onto the axle spindle, so that I don't screw up the seal and get the bearing centered. Can't be helped. Let me get the socket for that. That went pretty well, being able to use that engine hoist. So one step closer to being able to get this axle back under the back of the truck for a test fit. So here I am back at the back of the truck, and right after I had ended that last clip about talking about getting that axle back under here, back under the back of the truck for a test fit, is when I got the call from Casey's. Casey's is a salvage yard that I deal with, and they're the ones that are gonna have found the parking brake. So what I had planned on doing was coming back under here and kind of locating the axle back under here. But one of the things that I have to do, I want to be able to get these springs off of here. This side, the spring here that always had the grease fitting on it is free. So if I let this jack down, you can see that the spring comes down to its resting point. Resting point being where it ends the pivot onto the thing. As you can see on this side, where the grease fitting had always been missing and it was caked with mud and water in where the grease fitting should have been, the spring is being held up. It won't come down. It's bound up on those pins, and I have tried to grease it. I've tried spraying PB Blaster in it. I've tried to spray PB Blaster in it and blow it into it with compressed air to get it to free up. Now, it is freed up a little bit. I mean, I can get this thing down a little bit, but it's not free. The other issue is I want to get them pins out of there, be able to drive them pins out of there to clean them up, clean the grease ports, which I'm assuming is probably a port in the side of the pin going out to a, let's call it a channel or a notch in the pin that will allow grease to get out in between the pin and the bushing. But I can't get those pins out. I mean, there's two bolts. There's a bolt that you see laying on the floor that goes through here on a hole, and this is split. Now, that's cast iron. It's split, but I took the bolt out thinking that it would allow enough tension off of it to drive the pin out, but I haven't. I've got this pin to move a little bit, but I haven't been able to get the pins out. Haven't been able to get the pins out on either side, and I've got to keep working on that. I want to, again, get them pins out for two reasons. To clean them up, like I had said, to clean up those grease ports, and get them back in a good condition again. And I want to be able to take these springs over to the bandsaw and cut the back side off. So there's two reasons I got to get that over there. But I wanted to bring the axle over here just to get a kind of an idea of where the ride height is going to be. You know, everybody, I mounted these tanks, and some people came in here and said, man, those tanks look low to the ground, but they're not really low to the ground if you compare it to saddle tanks on another truck. And once I get this axle and the tires, rims and tires on the center line of that axle with the rims and tires on it, underneath this thing, it's going to be picking this thing way up a lot. I'm not going to say a lot. A lot is kind of subjective term. It depends on what you consider a lot. But I'm going to say it's probably going to pick it up another 6 to 8 inches. So that clip got left off. This is Saturday, and this is probably the day that I'm going to post this video. And what happened is I thought about it overnight, thought about them providing me with that parking brake, and I called Casey's this morning, and they were open. Even though it's a day before Easter, they were open, and I talked to them, and we agreed upon me bringing it in. Now, originally, I thought I was going to have to bring in the entire axle, so I was asking him, do you want me to put the axle shafts back in and stuff like that? And he says, what? No, I don't want the entire axle. I just want the pumpkin, the main pumpkin out of it. So what I've got to do is pull that out. I'll pull the pumpkin apart and pull out the ring and pinion out of it, and he just wants me to take that down to him. And you know, I says I didn't know anything about rear ends. I mean, I've opened rear ends up before, but I've never really worked on a truck rear end before. So I says you're going to be able to set the backlash on it and everything without the axles and the rest of the axle housing. And he says, oh yeah, we do that all the time. So anyways, here's my next task, is to get the pumpkin out of the rear axle, take it down there. We talked about taking it down on Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. So that's going to do it for this chapter. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, share it if you feel like it. But anyways, until next time, that's it for this chapter.